I'm about to start a new adventure today. I'm heading to South Texas. This is my spring break, and I am looking at a couple of the activities while I'm there. The one that I know I'll be able to do is bird watching. There's a number of places, a wildlife refuge, a nature center that I've gone to before, and I've always had a great time. I'm an amateur bird watcher, so I still have a lot to learn about all the different birds. So that's the definite thing that I'm going to do. Hopefully I might get to kayak a little bit there. I might get to ride bikes there, and do bird watching while I'm doing that. And this is also going to be near the beach, so hopefully a little bit of beach time, though it's going to be pretty crowded because it's spring break. The other thing that I'm really hoping happens, and it's scheduled to happen right now, is a launch of the SpaceX Starship. It's scheduled to happen near the end of the week that I'm there. I've got everything planned so that I can be at the closest viewing site if possible, and it's just a matter of whether it goes or not on that day. So that's what I'm hoping for. First step on the journey is I'm driving from my home down to Lake Corpus Christi State Park, where I will be spending the night because it's a really long drive to the South Padre Island area. So I'm hitting the road early on a Saturday morning, and hopefully we'll have a nice relaxing evening at the state park tonight before I make the final drive tomorrow. Hello from Lake Corpus Christi State Park, my first stop. This is on my way to South Padre Island area, and it's a nice area to stop in. There's a pretty lake. There's a bird blind, which is I found last time I stayed here a year ago. Saw a lot of birds there last year. Stopped by there just now. It's almost before sunset. There weren't very many to see, but maybe in the morning I'll get another chance. Probably have to leave kind of early-ish to get on the road. It's a crisp, cool morning here at Lake Corpus Christi State Park. I got up early as I had hoped, even with the time change, and everything's loaded up, ready to head on down the South Padre Island area, and if all goes well, I will be visiting the Starbase site later this afternoon once I get settled into the new campsite for the next couple of days. And hopefully it'll be smooth driving. The weather looks nice, no rain or anything that I'm aware of, and it's earlier than I wish it was, but it's a beautiful day, ready for the drive. I was able to get set up at my campsite by mid-afternoon, and then made the 1 hour-ish drive down to Starbase. Starbase sits at the southern tip of Texas, near where the Rio Grande River meets the Gulf of Mexico. The first thing that you see when you're driving up is the Starbase production site. And the site has this huge sign that says Starbase on it. You can see the large buildings. There's a collection of rockets making up what's called a rocket garden off to one side. And as you continue past these tall buildings where they're actually using the inside spaces there to construct some of the rockets and boosters, they've got new factories going up here related to building all of their rockets. So lots and lots of construction. I was at this location a year ago, and some of these buildings didn't even exist then. Other buildings were in their place that are now gone. So it's really rapidly changing. A couple of miles further down the road, you get close to the launch complex area. So you can see here on the right side of the road now, the launch tower is the most prominent structure that you see, and as we get closer, you can see that there's actually one of the rockets, that's Ship 29, is on a stand where they can test engines and things. You'll see signs that have been put onto the walls around the complex saying Gateway to Mars. There's also a big SpaceX sign that you see right as you reach the first entrance into the launch complex area. There's parking on the opposite side of the road, so you'll see a lot of people who come down to the area um, that are looking at it. You'll park across the street. You can't park on the side right by SpaceX because that's actually SpaceX land. So if you're visiting, you just need to be aware of where the SpaceX land is and what's still public road or public areas. A little further down the road, you'll see just behind the wall there on the right, Starhopper. Starhopper was one of the first test flight vehicles out here and is now kind of a monument on the side of the road. It serves as a water tank. And as we come down just a little bit further, if you look over to the right, you can see the launch tower. Good news for the planned launch later this week is the stacking of Starship on top of Booster. Early this morning, when I started my drive down to South Texas from the Corpus Christi area, at that point in time, Booster 10 was on the launch pad, but the Ship 28 had not yet been stacked on top. So this is a really good sign that that has already been done. If you keep following Highway 4, you reach Boca Chica Beach, just a little ways past the last gate into the SpaceX launch complex. This is a public beach. Highway 4 is the only road that serves it, and since the land that SpaceX needed is right along Highway 4, this gives us access to both the launch complex area and from the beach side, you can also get really good views of the launch tower and the site. It's almost sunset here, and I'm hoping to get some good light very soon. One of the really cool things about Starship and the launch base, Starbase here in Boca Chica, is how close you can actually get. There's actually some land right next to Starbase and mudflats that are outside of Starbase property, and you can actually walk out on those and get all the way where you can see very close. So it is an amazing place to see rockets as they're being prepared for launch. Nowhere else in the world can you get this close to a rocket that's about to be launched. I had a great view of the sunset as I left the beach and headed back towards Brownsville. I'll leave you with these images for what turned out to be a very long but also very productive day for me. Two days later, I found myself back at Starbase for another important event leading up to a possible launch later that week. Ship 29, which had been at the launch site, was being moved back to the production site. So I had an opportunity to get an up-close view of this ship as it moved out of the launch complex and onto the road before heading down towards its next destination in the production site. I'm going to leave you now with some of the sounds of the movement of this large rocket ship. The next day, great news came. The FAA had approved SpaceX's launch license for this third test flight of Starship. The license was effective starting March 14th, which would be 1 day later. So I immediately put into place my plans to view the launch over on South Padre Island at Isla Blanca Park. Isla Blanca Park is a county park, and it's located at the southern tip of South Padre Island, right next to the ship channel. It's about 5 miles due north of the launch site, so it's one of the best viewing sites that you can go to see Starship launch. To make it there in time, I had to wake up at 12:45 a.m. and get on the road to drive the about 45 minutes or so from the park I was staying in northern Cameron County down to South Padre Island and Isla Blanca Park. I arrived at the island just a little before 2 a.m. and found that cars were already stopping along the side of the road to wait for the park gates to open. The gates were scheduled to open at 3 a.m. with the scheduled launch at 7 a.m. So I ended up sitting on the side here behind this other line of cars for about 45 minutes or so. And then I started to see that cars further down the line were beginning to move to get closer to the actual gates. So that was getting close to around 2:45 or so. So I went ahead and moved my car to join the line at the gate. Once into the park, I drove down to the parking lots that are on the southernmost part of Isla Blanca Park, and there I was able to find a parking place that was fairly close to the waterfront, which was nice. So that allowed me to grab all my gear and go to find a place along the waterfront where I would have the best view, as well as not have anybody in front of me, which worked out great because I found a place with a big giant patch of cactus right in front of the sidewalk area, so I knew no one would stand in front of me. When I first got there, you could see over in the distance the launch tower lights. At this point, it was a waiting game. Between the approximately 3 a.m. arrival time and the 7 a.m. scheduled launch, the fog started to roll in. At one point, we couldn't even see lights on the boats that were out in the shipping channel, and the launch tower lights disappeared for most of that period. And so myself and others, we were just waiting. As it got closer to the scheduled launch at 7 a.m., we got news that it had been delayed to 7:30, which, given the thickness of the fog, did not seem like a bad thing to us because we didn't have much of a view at that point. Then, as it got closer to the 7:30 time, it was delayed again until 8, and then we received a notice that it was delayed to 8:25. By then, the sun had started to rise, a little bit of the fog thinned, and at least our viewing got a little bit better. We still could not see the launch tower, but the sky above, we could start to see sunlight. Before that a little bit, we could start to see starlight. So we knew we might have a good view of the launch as it got into the air. I'm going to show you the video that I took of the actual launch. Keep in mind the camera had a little bit of trouble focusing due to fog at the very beginning, but as launch begins, you'll be able to see Starship a little bit better.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
Couldn't even see it starting.
There, now you can see it up above the cloud. There's some sound. Well, it's been a busy couple of days. Yesterday morning was the Starship launch, and it seems like forever ago since I didn't get any sleep really the night before. And yesterday was pretty busy. After the launch, I spent 4 hours in traffic leaving Isla Blanca Park before I could go back and move campsites, going back to Isla Blanca Park, which by then the traffic was not bad. Today I've stopped over at McKinney Falls State Park in Austin just to rest tonight before I make the final drive back north to Denton tomorrow. It's a really pretty park. I've never been here before. I hope to come back and spend some more time. I'm just doing a one-nighter here and stretching my legs a little bit on the trail after about a 6-hour drive up to here. And that's pretty much everything I've got for now. I hope you enjoyed seeing my journey down to the Starship launch. It was awesome and definitely worth the trip if you're able to make it down to one of them. Isla Blanca Park is the closest viewing spot. There are some others that are a little bit closer, I think. Those charge large fees. It's small for me to get into Isla Blanca Park, but you got to get there early because it does fill up. So, thanks, and see you soon.